back to the channel, everybody. Hope you guys are doing well. Thanks for joining in today. We are back on the Coxton sub today, and we are going to be running part 2 of the Meade way freight. We're going to be working our way back to Meade. We have a few extra additions we're going to look at today. We've got some switching here to do in Meade. Normally, this would be done before the way freight even arrives, so that the way freight would just come in, do like a block swap, and then head on back. But since we didn't get to do that because we're in single player mode, we're going to do that today. So that'll be fun to check out, and then we're going to get to do a little bit of rail fanning. And when we get to Billary, we'll be breaking the train down into its different tracks, and we'll go from there. So quite a few extra things, not too much of the way freight itself, because we're only going to be working 2 towns, and the rest of it will be some switching, and I know that we all really enjoy switching, so looking forward to that. All right, guys, stay tuned for more. Here we go. Well, right after we got started, we got a call from the dispatcher who let the yardmaster know that he wants to go ahead and get the Meade mill run out of the way. So we actually had to stay over here on the local track and wait for this guy to get out of the way. Technically, we could still pull at least this one track without interfering with his path, but we do need that crossover that takes us back over to the main so we can get into the yard. And so might as well just sit around and wait, enjoy some rail fanning while he makes his way out on his way back to Billary. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do today, we're going to pull these 4 cars off the local track, take the crossover to get to the main, and we're going to go ahead and back up to this tank car here in the foreground. This red tank car in the foreground was one of the pickups that we had on the way up here to Meade, so we're going to go ahead and connect to those and cut all of those pickups off of the train that was brought up here and set those out on the main. Since there are no other trains coming into town, we can use the main to our benefit, and we will therefore be able to put all of our pickups together and out of the way for the return trip to Billary. This is quite a move for one switcher to make. Got a little bit of a challenge going on there, but I think he's up for it. We have to pull about 15 cars out here all the way until we get to the second of the Boston and Maine covered hoppers. We have one we can see coming up here, the blue one, not too far away, but when we get to the second one, that is where we're going to cut our train. Well, now we're going to go ahead and pull this cut of cars. These are all the cars that are being delivered today. And the only reason we're pulling this cut right now is because it has 4 cars to be put out on this local track. And this is the only track that has to be switched from the east end of the yard here. So we're going to go ahead and do that first. Put all these cars back and then run around to do the rest of our pickups and setouts. I have started going through on this route and adding little signs like this next to tracks where cars are to be delivered so that you can match the letter in numerical code with the codes that you put on the cars, the tags and whatnot. So this helps you identify visually without having to look at the map. If you wanted the actual full name of the industry, you'd have to, of course, look at the map. There is a track mark for every industry, but you can't see that in driver mode. Well, now that we finally have our 3 cars, I was actually wrong earlier when I said 4. It's actually just 3 cars. We have 3 cars here for the local track. We're going to go ahead and shove those back, disconnect, and then you can see where we've left the 3 hoppers and the bulkhead up there to the center left. Once we cut off these 3 cars at the end, we'll go ahead and reconnect to those and shove back into the yard so we can do our runaround. It's not every day that you get to see almost every track here in Meade filled up with some kind of rolling stock or locomotive, but today is just one of those days. A little bit busy today. I am going to go back here and make sure to sink all of this track into the mud. I know that we all like to see nice, pretty polished track, but whenever I look at a rail yard, I just always see tracks buried in the mud. Well, I did realize that we have 1 car that's bound for the second local track, which we forgot to switch out earlier. It's that bulkhead that you see a little bit closer to the locomotive. So this time what we're going to do is eventually just kind of set it off to the side. That way we can get the way freight out of here, and the switching crew will take care of that sometime later today. Not a priority right now because we kind of also have our locomotives sitting on that track. Going to go ahead and pull all 4 cars off of the first track here at the feed mill. And we'll grab all 5 cars off of the second track at the feed mill. Track 1 here is for delivering the different bulk items that are used to make the feed, and then track 2 off to the right is where we load hoppers to carry the feed back to market. I know a lot of rail fans love to take pictures at S-curves. You probably didn't think about this being one, but there it is. Maybe we'll get lucky one time on a Sunday afternoon or something, and we might find some rail fans posted up here taking some pictures of just something like this. Quite honestly, I would have a lot of fun just sitting here watching switching operations. It'd be fantastic. I'd have a time of my life, probably. Now, there are several places we could drop these cars that we just picked up. We could leave them in the yard. We could put them on the siding. We could put them on a cut of cars that's already ready to be, we're actually already ready to head out. In this case, though, we're going to go ahead and shove back here into the foreground because we're going to be working the flour mill, which is just behind us. And if we shove these cars over here past the switch in the foreground, we can just get them out of our way a lot easier. And then that will give us a good opportunity to quickly reconnect to them when it's time to head out here in a few minutes. Here is the flour mill, which is next. As you can see, I've got the little signs posted up next to the track. So the first track on the left is for bringing in the grain and corns and wheats, or whichever else we're going to be using to make the flour. And then the track on the right is where we load out the flour into hoppers. Typically, we do not take an empty hopper from the grain track over to the flour track to be loaded. We typically bring in empty hoppers that are specifically used consistently for carrying flour. We don't really want to mix anything like that. In the real world, I'm sure sometimes they might do just that. Sometimes they might take an empty hopper from anywhere and put it over there, but I would imagine that there's a bit of a process in making sure that those hoppers are cleaned out and whatnot and blown out before they go over to loads of flour. If you've ever messed with flour, you know it's incredibly fine, so you wouldn't want that mixing in with any sort of just raw grain. We do have one hopper car here at the end of our cut that's actually a set out for track 1, so we're going to go ahead and pull him out and set him out. And then all the other cars you see over there in the background on track 2 are going to go ahead and get reconnected, because those are going to either the flour mill or the local track. Operationally, I do really like the design of the track work and things here in Med, with the industries, the way freight, and basically the turn, the local that runs up here. However, there are a ton of fine details and scenery and things to add to really polish things up. So please don't look at this and think, ugh, that's kind of bland. This is definitely not the final presentation. This is most certainly just an early stage representation of the basics. So we'll definitely get there with more details as time goes on, but it's going to be nice when it's finished. We're going to go ahead here and set this car off over on the double crossover so we can get around him. That double crossover is just enough track space to get around about 2 cars, so we're going to make it work. It's going to be perfect. Well, we have 3 setouts for track 1 and 1 set out for track 2, and they're in order of 1, 2, 1, 1. So we're going to go ahead and put our first one out there, and then put our track 2 spot over there on the right, and then we'll go back to track 1 to finish up. Well, our last move here is to go ahead and put these cars over into the yard and get the switcher out of the way, and then we'll go ahead and take our road power. We will have to triple the train this time, which means we'll have to make 3 moves in order to build the train up together. And then after that, we'll be ready to head on out. We'll be going to Glenthorne first, followed by Minehead, and then lastly, Billery to be broken down. All right, now that we have got the train all put together, we are ready to go from Med and head to the west to Billery. So we've got the train with all new tags. We know where everything's going to go. So now it's just time to call the dispatcher and get on our way. Well, we have spent a lot of time here in Med today, but that's the beauty of way freight operations, is sometimes things don't always go to plan. And when we expected to be able to come up here and just do a quick block swap, we ended up having to do a lot of waiting for the local crew to get their switching done. So thankfully all that's done and we're on our way out. Next stop for us is Glenthorne. We have a few drop-offs and some pickups to do there. Set-outs actually, I should say, instead of drop-off. So we'll see you guys over there in just a minute. Thanks again to the Billery Yard crew over at Med Yard. They blocked it for us, so we've got our first 3 set outs you can see for GLL1. Those are for the Glenthorne local track. Then we have the GLCs for the Glenthorne co-op. And then all the MILs and the MIIs, those are for Minehead. So we're going to hit all of our locations in order. We don't actually have any pickups here today at this local track, so we're just going to set these cars out, leave them here, and next time that we run this train, we'll worry about all our pickups and getting them all in order later at another time. All right, now that we're done working in Glenthorne, we're going to continue on to the west. Next up is the Glenthorne Co-op, and then lastly, we're going to be to Minehead. Well, as we come into the co-op here, we realize that we're going to have to grab these 2 stock cars and get them out of the way. I guess we shouldn't have paid so much attention earlier trying to set them out correctly, because we're just going to have to move them again. But that is what it is, because these 2 grain hoppers we have here in front have to go behind those stock cars, and the only way to get in is up here in the foreground. All right, as we back up here, we're going to put 1 of the hoppers each at the 2 loading facilities and then spot the 2 stock cars. And then after that, we'll reconnect, and we'll see you then as we get ready to continue on west. And here we are finally making our way into Minehead. This is the last location we have to work. We do have to work the iron mine in the background, which means we're going to have to clear out the local track here right in the foreground, which we have previously worked. Plus we have some set outs for the second local track, which is currently not in frame. We'll get over there in just a minute. But once we finish up dropping off the first 11 or 12 cars or so in our consists here and pick up a few more, we'll be ready to head out. And then here we have the second local track. We have 3 pickups, so we're going to go ahead and shove all these cars because we need to get them out of the way so we can reach the mine. But when we get back to this track, we will go ahead and work out which cars are actually going to stay and which ones are going to go. First up are the pickups of loaded iron cars from the mine itself. We're going to go ahead and shove those back mid-train here and get them out of the way so we have some space for some switching. This will make it where we don't have to go all the way back to the beginning of the siding in order to work this industry. Our next thing to do here at the mine is grab that cut of empty sitting on the storage track and put them where we just grabbed the pickups from. That way they can be loaded for next time. And now we're going to use that lead to drop off temporarily the cars that we don't need to work with right now, so that we can go ahead and get our pickups out of the way. Our pickups are the Cotton Belt car, the Seaboard System Box car, and the Southern Pacific covered hopper, all 3 right there together. So we're going to go ahead and get these onto the rest of our train, and then we'll come back and get these 4 other cars out of the way. All right, now that we've reconnected to the back end of our train, we're going to go ahead and shove clear of this crossover. We need to get all of the setouts that are staying here in town off of the track that we're currently on, all the way until the only cars left are the empty hoppers that we're setting back on the storage track. After that's done, we'll go back and grab the cars that we are leaving here, which are about, looks like 8. Yeah, I think that's about right. And then, I could be wrong. And then we'll set those back out at their different places before we head out. All right, here we are pulling forward to make our last disconnect so we can set these cars out. We'll show that here in just a minute, and then we'll be highballing all the way to Billary. All right, well, looking at our stats here, we've got just about 2,400 feet, which is not too bad. We've got 3,600 tons of weight, and we've got a Jeep 9 and an RS11. I don't remember their exact horsepower ratings, but I know that neither of them are over 2,000, so we're probably looking at around 1 horsepower per ton. I think that'll be enough. Let's see, we have a 2% hill we have to come up. It is really short, which is helpful, but at the top of it is a really sharp curve that puts in a lot of friction on all the wheels because of the curve, and that's right at the crest of the hill, which is tough because you've lost most of your momentum by then already. So we'll see. This is going to be the ultimate test to see if we can make it up the hill, but we're going to try to get our best head start and cross our fingers and see what happens. Worst case, we might have to call in some helpers. That'd be a fun operation to witness. Well, here we are trying our best to get some momentum. We'll see if we can maintain it. I did remember that right when you reach the top of the hill, there also is a 20-mile-an-hour speed restriction. So we'll see. That might cause us to put our brakes in a little earlier than we'd like, which is a huge killer. So we're going to test our abilities. We'll see what happens. I don't usually show uncut footage, but for this right here, I think I want to. So we'll kind of slide around and see what happens. Hopefully we can make it. That 20-mile-an-hour reduction right here. We'll see. We'll see. I think I need to go back and do some editing. I think I need to put that 20-mile-an-hour restriction here. Actually, we're taking that turn a bit fast. Let's go ahead and get ready for that. We did actually get a good momentum going up. Came in a bit fast. You know, we're staying on the main, but still, it's just entering that control point is why we have to keep it slow. And here, of course, is the time when it becomes difficult because now our momentum is working against us and we've had to notch it down so much we're probably going to stall this time. We shall see. I do know that a lot of diesels get their highest tractive effort at around 7 to 10 miles an hour, so we'll see what we can pull off here. Oof, it's going to be close. I think if we can just get those iron ore cars up around this curve, I think we'll be all right before we hit, about 4. Once we get to 6 miles an hour, I've got to drop it down a notch so we don't wheel slip. Hopefully we can hold it right here. I definitely have some refinement to do, but that's okay. That's the beauty of operating these things, is you get to see areas you need to improve. So I definitely have some speed limits I need to change to make it a little more challenging. Plus, I need to make sure I don't come into that curve so dang fast, which is part of the reason I need to change the speed limit. But we'll get there, and then we'll come and test it again another time. See how it goes. Maybe it'll force me to carry a third locomotive for this train. Although we are a bit heavier than usual today. Although I see with us getting back up to 9 miles an hour, I think we're going to make it. I think that's it, guys. Awesome. Yep. I'm going to say we're good. Well, here we are at North Billary. Actually, this is South Billary. Sorry, my apologies. We're going to go ahead and cut the video here just because it's already reached a very long time for my typical operating videos. Definitely had a good time. This train overall has taken me about 8 hours to run in real time, so that's not too bad. I do think, looking back, I probably could have done a separate video just on the operations in Med alone with all the switching, and then a separate one for working the line back. But sometimes when I make part 3s of videos, they don't get as many views as they really deserve, so I figured we'd try to squeeze it in here. But I'll leave the switching in Med to your imagination. Trust me, there will be plenty more opportunities for us to look at, not Med, sorry, at the yard in Billary. There will be plenty more opportunities for us to see some operations there, so don't fret over it. We'll be all right. But thanks again for watching. Stay tuned for more as we have other things coming out in the next few weeks, and hopefully we're going to have a good spring this year, good temperatures, and lots of healthy, nourishing rain. All right, man. Talk to you guys later. Appreciate it. Y'all have a good one.